What's up? What's up? What's up? Happy Friday. Welcome to a new episode of Unspoken Truth Podcast. I'm your host, Denise. Welcome back. If you're just joining us for the first time, I appreciate you taking out the time to join us tonight. I believe that tonight's interview and conversation is going to be very impactful, and I'm a big believer of impact, okay? Tonight, we are going to be talking to the mayor of Garfield Heights. That is a city within the state that I live in. And we're going to get a chance to talk to him about reelection, crime, safety, things of that nature. If you're tuning in and you're a resident um, of this city, feel free to comment in the chat. And we're going to go ahead and get started. Let's see if we can is get him in the box. Okay. Hello, Mayor. Are you there? I don't got no sound or no picture. Okay. I'm not really sure what the heck is going on, but hold on 1 second. Let's see. Mayor Burks, are you here? Let's see what's happening. I'm not really sure. Uh-oh. Hold on, guys. Give me 1 second. Not really sure what's happening. Okay. Let me remove. And let's see if I can get them to come back in. How's everybody doing? Happy Friday to you. Let me see if I can get them to come back in. Let's see. Mayor Burks, are you there? I have no sound. Not really sure what's going on. Uh-oh. Can not get my sound to work. Um, wait a minute. Okay. Let's see. Can you hear me? I don't hear anything from your end. Can you hear? Okay. There we go. Let's see if I can get it together. Mayor Burks, are you here? I've never had this issue before. I have no idea what's happening. Can you hear me? I can't hear anything. I have no idea what's going on. Okay, wait a minute. Try to make sure stuff is off. Okay. Yeah, I can't hear anything from your end, from you. You by any chance have Instagram or YouTube? Okay, boom. we go. Mayor Burke, welcome. I got you in the building. Can you hear me? I don't have no sound from you. Can you hear me? There's a little microphone on the screen. You gotta click
I'm
it.
not able to hear
There we
you.
go. Got it. Hi, Mayor Berg. Welcome. Can you hear me? Okay. Let's see if he gonna come back in. 'Cause we've been really having some issues with the sound tonight. Okay, boom. There we go. Can you hear me now, Mayor Burks? Click the little sound button on your screen. I think that's why we can't hear.
I can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
I'm not able to hear you.
You're not able to hear me? Okay, let's try to fix that. Can you hear me now? What is happening? Okay, wait a minute. 'Cause I don't know who these other people are that then popped up on this.
Maybe I need to do this in or
Okay,
something.
can you hear
I
me now?
can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Okay, wait, let's see. Ah, can you hear me now? I have no idea who this other person is that keep trying to jump in. Okay, wait a minute. What is happening? Can you hear me? What is going on with my freaking sound?
Not able to hear you.
You're not able to hear me? Oh, goodness. We got some issues then. Okay, wait a minute. Bear with me, guys. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Okay, I see my speaker moving.
Okay, can you hear me?
Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. Okay. Welcome, Mayor.
I'm muted again.
You muted again? Okay, wait. Let's try to fix that. Because I can hear you perfectly fine.
Locked up or something.
Okay, let's see. Can you hear me now? Uh-oh. We just keep losing the mayor. We just keep losing them. Let's see. We're going to make this happen. It's the last thing I do today. We're going to make it happen. I'm so sorry. I don't know why we having such an issue with audio tonight. I don't want to add any guests until I can get him on here properly. Okay. Okay. Let me see. I have no idea. Mayor, come back. Excuse me. I'm so sorry, y'all. I don't know what happened. He came in twice and we couldn't get no real good audio. He couldn't hear me. Okay, let's see if it works now.
I can hear you now.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know. We'll call it technology, okay?
Right.
Welcome to the show, Mayor.
Well, thank you for having me.
I appreciate you for taking the time out just to come talk with me. I talked to your sister a little while ago. I learned some stuff about you that I didn't think I knew before now.
Uh oh.
I am a new resident of Garfield. I've been here 1 year. but my family is rooted in Garfield. But me and your sister talked about Michelle Powell and your
Oh
connection
yeah.
with her. And she has been a huge pillar and mentor to my kids who are now grown with families of their own. So that was dope to find that out about you. So,
You know,
oh,
Michelle makes the best macaroni and cheese I think I've ever had. You know,
okay.
and but no, what she really does, I mean, with her nonprofit and her organization is really special. You know, and it's about kids. Um, Truly, I mean, she makes a difference. You know, I mean, it really is nice to have, like, to know her in like that family setting, because
Mhm.
she's related to my nieces, really, you know.
I
And
know
so
she was. Boy, I'm
what a
just
small
blown.
world.
Yeah, absolutely. So I met you because she was like, "Well, how long have you known the mayor?" And I was like, "Well, he came knocking on my door a few weeks ago, and we talked about re-election and some of the stuff that's going on in the community. And I told you that I had a podcast and that I would love to have you on the show. And here we are. Okay.
Awesome.
Um, I want to start out by just talking about the things that you have done and brought to the city of Garfield Heights. Can you just give us a little backstory about the history? How did you go from where you came from to being the mayor of Garfield Heights?
um it really started for me, you know. I grew up here. My family moved here in 1977. In 1978, they bought the house that I'm in now, and I bought that from my parents when they moved to Brecksville. You know, my mom is actually Chinese, and my dad was Polish. So I got to grow up, you know, when they got divorced, my mom and my stepfather uh, moved to Garfield Heights, you know. But my mom, being a single mom to us, even though she had my stepdad, you know, it wasn't like having your dad there. But my mom didn't speak good English. You know,
Okay.
she spoke like broken English at the time. So, you know, I grew up seeing how people reacted to her and how people um, acknowledged her. But then, you know, she's like an incredible story on her own, because she came to this country. Her husband was abusive. Her husband left. They got divorced, and then she grew. She became a restaurateur out in Medina. Um, she was successful at it. And then, you know, today she's still at the age of 70 some years old, because I don't, she never tells me how old she really is. Um, but, you know, and I should know this, but it's complicated. Anyways, but, you know, she is still a strong person. She still works every single day, and she serves food for the elderly at the Danbury in Broadview Heights. She loves her job. She likes helping people, and I think that's where I get it from. I know that's where my sister gets it from. We try to help people, you know, and at the same time, I'm a Christian man. My mom is Buddhist, and but the principles are the same. You know, treat people the way you want to be treated and be kind to others. And that was something that she always instilled in me. But so in 2007, 2008, there was a guy that was um, riding his bicycle in front of my house. It was around October. It was one of those nights where it's dark, because we already, you know, moved the clocks back, and some rain, you know, was coming down, and this guy got hit, and he was left to die right in front of my house. I ran out there and I tried to help him. There was a another guy that was driving by, and he stopped his car. He was a Parma paramedic, thank God. I was in the United States Army, but I can tell you that night, all the stuff that you learn in your training, now would have to count on. And I'm glad there was a paramedic. This guy was a Parma paramedic, and together we tried to help this individual, but he died right in front of us. And I remember that night there was a camera that was on the traffic camera, or the traffic light. It wasn't hooked up. I had asked about it. I said, whoever hit this guy would be on the camera, because where I live, you can the person hit this man and then got right on the I-480 entrance ramp and took off.
Mm,
So we watched the guy die. His name was Ray, and that affected me a little bit. You know, I had asked my council person at the time, why isn't this camera working? I couldn't get an answer. In fact, they wouldn't. No, nobody. I mean, she wouldn't call me back. It got to a point where my neighbor said, "Why don't you run for council?" So I
mm,
did. And the first time I ran for council, I lost by 4% of the vote. And I said, okay, nobody wants me. I'm good. Um, but a lot of the other council people had called me and said, are you going to run again in 2 years? And I said, I don't know. I mean, the people didn't really want me. Why should I run again? And they said, well, you didn't do some of the things that we felt you needed to do, like go after the people that vote by mail. I had no idea that, I could send them my literature and stuff. I wasn't privy to these type of databases and stuff. And once I learned that, they talked me into running again in 2 years. And I won by 17% of the vote. And one thing I will say is when I ran against that councilwoman, Tracy Mahoney, at first we had some really, you know, um, really, really, I want to say tough moments. She didn't like me. She sort of treated me like I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Kind of condescending to me. I always tried to be nice to her. But then after I won and she saw the kind of work that I was doing, the kind of job I was doing, we became friends. And, when I ran for mayor 5 years ago, she was really the first person to get behind me and endorse me for mayor. And her story was she was ill. She was sick and she wasn't able to make it to meetings. She wasn't able to return the phone calls. And it was tough. It was a tough decision for her to make, to know that I can't do this job anymore. So it's time for me to step aside,
mm,
and she didn't have a lot of faith in me because she didn't know me. But as she got to know me and she got to know that now Ward 6 is going to be in good hands because this guy returns his phone calls and he helps people and he tries to get the answers for them and things like that. I think she felt more secure about turning the reins over to me. And like I said, we became good friends, which is something that you don't see much of in politics today. I don't consider myself a politician, I consider myself a public servant. But
I
you know
like. Mhm,
there's a big difference there,
yeah.
because a politician plans on doing this the rest of their life, and they eventually get to a point where there's no vision involved. And most of the politicians that I know, they don't really have a vision for what they want to do. They just want to get in office. Where
Mhm,
somebody is a public servant or an elected official, you have a vision. Like I have a vision, and I wanted to see this city be better. I wanted to see a city that it was like when I was younger, when it came to just having things to do. I mean, was it always great here in Garfield Heights? I don't know. It depends on who you talk to, because for some people it was, for others it really wasn't. but there's got to be a space where we can all get together and we can all um, figure out what it is that the community wants and try to implement those things, you know.
Hmm.
But that's
Well,
how
I
I got
know
involved.
since I've been living here, I've seen you do a few things. For starters, I saw you do a community barbecue a couple months ago during the summer while a lot of the kids was out on summer break. I've seen you implement certain things as far as transitioning the tennis courts into basketball courts on Granger. Those that's not familiar, that's across the street from Marymount Hospital. I've seen you do some things. I want you to know that my family is very embedded in Garfield. I have an auntie that's lived on the same street for over 40 years. So coming back here from a different county back to what essentially is like home for my roots, as far as my parents and they siblings and my cousins and whatever else. Um, I've seen the transition from a little kid to a teenager to the 20s and then now a grown woman. I've seen the transition. I've seen what it once was versus what it has become. And I also know what it could be once certain things are put into motion. You know, I just want to say from the beginning, I'm not here, I'm really not into politics at all. I just thought, what would be the harm in me having a conversation with a man who is up for reelection, who has already had so many flowers given to him for the things that he has done? What would be the harm in me having a conversation with him? That's open to the residents of Garfield, open up to the public, whatever. You said yes. And it threw me off at first. I was like, wait a minute. But this is something that me and you talked about when I first met you. I let you know how I felt about certain things that was going on, how I felt like us as a community could handle some of the things that's going on, what we could do with some of the empty spaces that we have going on. I mean, I've literally sat here and jotted about 10 different things for us to talk about. I think the most important thing that most of the viewers and followers want to know is the crime. It's been a lot of stuff going on in Garfield lately. Not to say that other cities are not, experiencing the same thing, but this was once a quiet city. Didn't much go on before. Now it's stuff going on and it's drawing attention from other cities and even out of state. What would you say has contributed to it going from this quiet little bitty small little city to it having a few issues, currently and even in the past?
You know, I work with Mayor Blackwell a lot over in Maple Heights, um, and just a few weeks back, I'll give you a perfect example of a conversation that her and I had a few weeks back, and it really um, impacted me a lot. Um, we had a shooting incident here in Garfield Heights over on Orm. Uh,
That was my
y-
family. That was
yeah,
actually my family, my first cousin.
yeah, and I don't want to get into exactly what happened there, but
Yeah, I know.
it sounds to me like a domestic violence incident, and um, the very next day they had a shooting in Maple Heights, and I was going through my Facebook, and I don't normally go on Facebook and like I don't chime in on the other people's things. Like I'll put a post out there, something we're doing, and that's it, you know. But I seen that Mayor Blackwell had decided to start doing a community town hall meeting once a month, and I've been doing that for 2 years. Making myself available to residents. They can come out to a meeting. and ask me questions. I'll give them an update on the city, and I do this every month because I want to engage with the residents. If I don't know what the issue is, I can't fix it. Correct.
Mhm.
So I said to Mayor Blackwell, kudos. I appreciate you for doing these town hall meetings in your, um, in your city. And I made a comment. We have to get, you know, with Cuyahoga County, because Cuyahoga County, they they put together the Office of Violent Crime Prevention, and they have a director. And but as far as I know, like they put this together. I went to the opening of it, I went to the announcement of it, but I haven't seen anything since. And I said to Mayor Blackwell, we need to get with them and find out what it is that they're trying to do. I understand that it's hard to stop somebody from pulling a trigger if you don't know that they're going to pull the trigger. It could literally happen anytime, and you're all over the news. But what can we do? And so we get 2 days after that, 2 or 3 days after that, we had the congressional parade. We talked to Congresswoman Chantel Brown. I think Mayor Blackwell and I will be meeting with her sometime here in the future. But we talked about we need to get a meeting with the Office of Violent Crime Prevention. And we did that. It was a few days after that congressional parade. We were on a virtual meeting. And I will tell you exactly what Mayor Blackwell said. And this is what I think a lot of people miss. You have to have an open mind and be able to look at things through the lens of another person. For
Mhm.
me, I looked at it like it seems like every time I turn around, residents tell me these judges have to hold people accountable. And we arrested a young man earlier this year who had two switched 9mm Glocks and an assault rifle. And when they took him to county, the judge released him to his parents. And guess what? He's back out on the streets trying to find another gun. But Mayor Blackwell really opened my eyes to this. And you know how you have the moment where you go, well, should have known better, because of people like Michelle Powell, okay, and what she does. I should have figured this out just by talking with Michelle over the years. But Mayor Blackwell says, if you really truly want to attack this, if you really truly want to help the situation, you have to be open to doing things to try to get the families back together. And what she said was, we live, both of our communities are heavily impoverished. The people here struggle with financial difficulties. And when people are hungry, they turn sometimes to violence. They turn to crime because that's how fast they can get a return on they can get their money. And she said, what we have to do is do things like a father's initiative. Let's get the kids, let's get the fathers back into the children's lives. Let's put the families back together. And it really resonated with me what she said. And she actually prefaced it by, Mayor, I hope you don't get offended by this when I tell you this. And I said, I told her, I'm glad she said that because I don't think that it is something that is being said enough. And it's hard for a guy like me sometimes to say that because even though I'm half Asian, a lot of people still consider me a white guy. And if I
Mhm.
say things, it can get misconstrued as being racial at times. But Mayor Blackwell put it right out there. And that's the reason why her and I work well. We work so good together, um, because she wants to do this work. She's already started a father's initiative in Maple Heights, and I've just talked to Brandon who does it for her 2 days ago, and he and I are going. He's going to help me start one in Garfield Heights, and it's something that we want to do. It's easy for us men to do the father's initiative. We need
Mhm.
we need women like Chloe Dozier, who's running for school board right now. She has a group called Moms on a Mission to help from a female perspective, you know. But I think having a father's initiative, from what Brandon is telling me, what Mayor Blackwell tells me is, you get the fathers together and you talk about how important it is to be um, a positive influence in the children's lives, because that could help in the long run when it comes to dealing with crime. It could help because the families might, you know, be being part of a family might make a child think about other things like workforce, learning a trade, going to college, whatever it is. I want people to understand that um, we can attack that violent crime that way, other than what we've already done. Like you know, when I took over the city 5 years ago, we had 48 officers on the force. Today we have 55, and we have.
That's definitely something that I wanted to bring up. I'm not sure if you're aware. Garfield Heights Police Force, in particular, has been named one of the most aggressive police forces in the city. And I've had my own personal experiences with it, but I'm just not realizing that now. Maybe it's because I live here now. I'm not really sure. But what kind of things can we do to kind of implement more minorities within the police force to help with patrolling our neighborhoods and helping out more with safety when it comes to our communities?
Well, and that's a great question. I actually chair a committee for the Northeast Ohio Mayors and City Managers Association, and it is about attraction and retention of young individuals to become police officers or firefighters, really anything that has to do with safety forces. And last year, I went to, it wasn't this past year, it was a year before. I went to Wichita, Kansas to attend a special convening. They call it a convening of people that do this type of work, and I was the only person from the only mayor in the country that was there, but the only person from Cleveland that was there that was a public official. It was put on by the Department of Justice, um, and basically it was a conversation specifically on how to attract minorities
Okay.
to to the profession. Now, one of the things that a lot of people don't know is when I took office, like I said, we had 48 officers. About three of those officers were on the payroll, but they really weren't on the street because they were retiring. And we've had officers, the older officers that have retired, but when we added officers to the force, we added people like Lueth Aging, who is from the Sudan. We added um, Mahmoud Suleiman, who is Middle Eastern, has a Middle Eastern heritage to him. Yusuf Ahiri. We have three or four women on our force. We have our new student resource officer who is on the force already. He's going to be the student resource officer in the middle school. His name is Jay Lee. He lives in Garfield Heights, and he's a African American police officer here. So we've addressed some diversity in our force, to the
Okay.
point where even like Governor DeWine says now we're the most effective uh, police force in the state of Ohio. And it's because of the drone technology, the surveillance cameras, the K9 units. You know, I think our officers, we have Hispanic officers, we have, officer like Haliwa, Patrolman Haliwa. I think he's like Hawaiian and or Filipino and Hawaiian. So, we've tried to address it as much as we can, and that is not something that I made the initiative to. That is our Chief Mark K. He's a younger man, and he understands people. He understands our community. He grew up here. He sees that we have business owners that are black business owners. We have Middle Eastern business owners, Chinese business owners, Hispanic business owners. And so we have officers that can go in, and specifically the Middle Eastern officer, Suleiman. I mean, he's had to go talk to a couple of the business owners that are from the Middle East, from Egypt, and they think he told me, "Look, I had to remind them they're not in the old country anymore. This is the United States. You
Mm-hmm.
can't threaten one another like that." But I think as you see these things, um, you see what diversity really looks like in our city. I mean, we're leading the county in that, and becoming the standard by which other people are trying to measure themselves. And it's not doing anything special, it's just seeing people for what they bring to the table. It's not has nothing to do with their race. It's just they're qualified officers. um, Lou, we call him Lou because, but he's from the Sudan, and I'll tell you, when all the kids see him, and they hear him speak, they know he's not from the United States. He's from the Sudan, and his story in itself is incredible because he has a story to talk about how he pretty much, has come from a country that is there's a lot of turmoil in that country. There's a lot of violence, and he came here and he became, you know, a police officer. And I know people that know Lou before he was a police officer. We have mutual friends, and they said that guy is incredible. I didn't know he was a police officer in your town. And these are some friends of mine from my meetup group that I used to ride bicycles in. So it's a small world. It really is a small world.
Well, Cuyahoga really not that big, but that's probably because when you born and raised here and you never lived nowhere else, you gonna feel like that. So we got a question. Somebody said, "Can they have the drones patrol the neighborhoods?" Is that something that y'all have discussed? Is that something that's a possibility with patrol and safety? I mean, because you
So,
can't be everywhere at all times. I know that. I hope everybody else understands that. It's only but so much manpower. So now, is that something that the police force is using possibly to create an extra layer of safety and protection for the residents?
well, what we've done, okay, let me first answer that by saying the drones are one tool, right?
Hmm.
And you cannot have, like that drone, each drone has to have a pilot, except for one type of drone. So when there's a call that comes in for, I just want to say, a kidnapping or a run. We actually had one time where a young man ran away from home. And so the officer has to drive out to the site and literally dispatch the drone because he's the drone pilot. By law, we're not allowed to just use drones. They have to be dispatched. Just like if you have a situation where somebody is in the house and they're holding people at bay, and you have the SWAT team out there and they're trying to negotiate, there's a small drone that they can send in through a window of the house, but they can't send that unless they have a court order or somebody that gives them the permission. So otherwise it's, big brother watching you, right? Now
Okay.
we also have a drone it's called a drone as a first responder. It is the only drone that you're allowed to have that doesn't have a pilot. That- so
Minute.
let's just say there's a call that comes in, and right there across the street from you, there's an issue, right? And the dispatcher can dispatch that drone. The drone literally sits on top of the fire station on Turney Road, and it takes off like a bird that's been sitting in a nest. It takes off and gets right over to wherever the location it needs to be, and it starts monitoring what's going on around in and around that location. Now, that's the only way you can use the drone, right? Now, outside of that, we have invested heavily in cameras, camera technology, specifically up and down Turney Road, which is our main thoroughfare, and in some hot spots around the city where we've had issues. Um, those cameras are monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week by our dispatchers. So when somebody calls in and says, "Hey, you know, there's a bunch of kids at Dave's supermarkets and they're fighting," they can literally look at those cameras, zoom in, and see exactly what is going on. And they can tell who the people are. We've actually caught people in Town Shopping Center, you know, starting fights. So that's another technology that we utilize heavily. The drones are nice, but the cameras are nice too. And certainly having them monitored by our dispatch 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it has put Garfield Heights Police on the map. And yeah, we might get, you know, we might get the reputation that we're aggressive. We're not trying to get that reputation. What we're trying to get is a reputation where we say, don't come to Garfield Heights to commit a crime. We'll catch you. We will get you. And we have this grappler system. So we, the need for a high speed chase is usually not very
Yes,
resistant.
please. Let's talk about that because I've seen several on my street, within the perimeter or the vicinity. I've seen several since I lived here. What happened? Because at one point we had not just Garfield, but possibly all of Cuyahoga had a no chase ban. What happened that it was decided that that should be lifted and that we should go back to chases? Because some people is not, they not making it and they have nothing to do with the chase and what's going on. So how, what is going on as far as the inside, as far as why that decision was made and what can be done in the future for us to figure out a different way?
Well, I think, you know, people will flee the police if they're, especially if they either committed a crime or they feel that they're um going to be under arrest, right? We actually have people sometimes that just take off. We invested in a technology called grappler, and that is where we can get up behind a car and shoot out a net that goes into the back tires of that car and tethers the car the to our police car. So the reason why we do that, the reason why we put drones in place is so that we don't have to have some of the high speed chases that we do. But people flee the police, you know, and we actually had a situation a couple years back where our officer was parked over here, I think I want to say on Warner or something like that, and a car went by, saw the police officer and started to speed off, and when he sped off, he was, you know, our officer turned to get onto the road, but it didn't matter. As soon as he turned to get on the road, this car was way gone. But then he went left to center and collided with somebody, and that other person lost their life. And there was an investigation. The insurance companies looked at things and they said it wasn't the officer's fault because the camera that showed everything doesn't even show the police car in the camera at the time of the accident, but just the person decided to flee, you know. And you're going to have situations like that. We don't want those situations. But to tell you the truth, a lot of the residents, we have a resident based group here that was put together, and they're called Neighbors on Duty, and they
Oh,
they make their
okay, wait
voices
a
heard.
minute, because now you teaching me something because I had no idea. I was going to ask you about that. Is that something that we should be doing again? Neighborhood watch and that type of thing, because I feel like that's a lost cause at this point in the game. It once was a thing. You look out for me, I look out for you. You make sure ain't nothing going on at my house when I'm not at home. I do the same for you. It's not like that today.
Well, let me tell you, I didn't put Neighbors on Duty together. The residents put Neighbors on Duty together through two of our council people, Councilman Clifford Kelly
Okay.
and Council President Avery Johnson, who was with me that day that we stopped by your house. They listened to the residents, and there's easily, I want to say, 250 to 300 residents that actually they have a meeting. I think they have another meeting coming up in October here, but they do a meeting once a quarter. They bring the police in and they let the police show them what they're doing. It's not a come check and check on the police and make sure they're not getting out of line. It's we want to know what we can do to help. They register their ring cameras with the police, and I'll tell you, a lot of what happens throughout the city when we catch people, it's because the police are able to go to somebody's house and look at their ring cameras.
Mm.
I had a situation about 2 years ago where somebody jumped up on my front porch. I had a little bucket of rock salt out there, threw the bucket in the middle of the street. But when I looked at my camera, I couldn't see the guy. It's not like he just walked up onto my porch. He literally crawled up on my porch from the side to try to stay out of the view of the camera. He
Mm.
didn't know I had another camera that could see him do that. And then when I reported it to the police, they got him on every ring camera going down Granger Road all the way into Maple Heights, and he was doing the same thing in Maple Heights. And they think that he was either hooked on drugs and he was just looking for some. He saw mine was rock salt. He threw it in the street, but he might have been looking for an Amazon package that was left out overnight. Just try to get something that he can go sell and maybe get his fix. I don't know, but you know, um, they literally followed him all the way down the street. So that just adds a whole nother layer of policing that nobody talks about, and it's really the community helping out. And I'll tell you, in your ward over there, and I know Stacy Collier, the councilwoman over there, she brags about it a lot. But I bet you didn't know Ward 1 in Garfield Heights is the safest ward we have in Garfield Heights. We have less crime in Ward 1 than we do anywhere
I
else
can
in Garfield
say
Heights.
I don't have an experience to share, cause and I don't have cameras or none of that. I just, for me, I think it's about keeping a certain level of rapport with your neighbors. Hey, we don't have to be besties. We ain't gotta hang out every day, but I just want you to know I see you. If I see anything going on around your house and I don't see you home, I'll let you know. It's not so much of a, oh, I have to. It's more so of I get a chance to. Because I would want somebody to extend that same courtesy to me, even if I didn't ask for it. It's just a common courtesy. That's why I said at some point, Garfield was like that, where you didn't have to worry about locking your doors at night because nobody was going to come and do anything. With respect to me asking you about like the crime and why do you think that it got like that, it brings me to the 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 history of gentrification that the whole city has dealt with over a substantial amount of years. Where it's like, okay, you uprooted all of these people from one part of the city and placed them somewhere else and didn't anticipate perhaps the things that was going on with them where you uprooted them from following behind them wherever they go. Does that make sense? Because to me,
Yeah,
that's the definition of gentrification. You're not necessarily solving the problem, you just moving it around. It's like chess pieces, you just moving it around. I, I found a space where this particular pond can rest for a minute, but it's just a temporary fix. It's not a long term fix, it's just a temporary fix. And I believe that that is what has contributed to a lot of the issues that the suburbs have currently. Because what used to be going on in the inner city is now going on in the suburbs. And it's like, well, how did we get here? Because everybody from the inner city got uprooted. And if there's nowhere else to go, you find yourself trying to get wherever you can. And that's how a lot of people ended up in the suburbs because perhaps that was the only place that was available at the time, or it was the only place they could afford at the time. You talked about the residents and the community struggling. I see it bigger than just Garfield. Like, I've been in line at the Greater Food Bank before. I've seen how many families are literally hungry, and it has nothing to do with where they work and how much they making. There's just a gap between the ends meeting. They not meeting no more. There's a gap there. What can we do as a community to kind of solve some of the little things? Because I know we can't solve big things until we learn how to solve the smaller things first. But what can we do as a community to kind of resolve or solve some of these problems? Because I hear you when you say if you hungry, you will reside to doing just about anything so you can make sure that you eat, so you get fed or feed your family or whatever it is. But that doesn't excuse it being inappropriate, wrong, and still a crime. Do you get what I'm saying? So what can
I
we
do.
do as a community, individually first, but then coming together to kind of resolve some of these problems? Is there something in place as far as like a resource center, a recreation center, something like that for families, kids, the youth? Like, what are we doing as a whole to kind of combat some of these smaller issues that the city is seeing?
Well, I think the first thing we have to do is we have to bring people together. You know, right up the road from you, there's two of your neighbors. One, I don't know that is able to get around as well anymore, but they started something called the Neighbors Idea Hub, you know. And basically, what it was they said, and they came to me when I was a council person. They said, "Can we utilize your community awareness meeting? You have the best community. You have the best like attendance at your meeting. Can we have it at your meeting?" And I said, absolutely. You know, and I didn't even know what they were talking about, but they said what they wanted to do is they wanted to bring people into this meeting, and they wanted them to um, sit with somebody they don't know, and then they would have like team building exercises for them. And I said, this is worth a shot. This is something we need to do as a community. And this was probably 8 years ago. And I watched people come into this meeting that I had, that I was the host of, and I turned the meeting right over to two of your neighbors that, you know, they're elderly women, and I don't know if people don't realize that we have some people walking around our city that's just history, walking history. You
Hmm.
know, one of them grew up in Selma. Her mom hung out with Rosa Parks. So
Right.
this is just somebody that is living history right here, right? So their idea was we're going to get people together from all walks of life, and we're going to politely ask them to get up and go sit with somebody they don't know. And then we're going to give them some team building exercises. And we did that. And you know what? Within 5 minutes of the first thing being done, it was like everybody was laughing, everybody was having good conversation. And I learned at that moment that really we need to engage people because if the reason why you don't like people don't talk to their neighbor, it's not because they don't like their neighbor, it's because they're afraid to get to know their neighbor. I think our society has got to a point where we don't we don't reach out and say, hey, I'm your neighbor, can I help you with stuff. I have a new neighbor next door, the old my next door neighbor that was here. He was a renter, he was a really nice guy. But him and his wife got married. They bought a house. I think they're on McCracken now. And I have a new neighbor, and she's a young, I think, single mom. You know, she keeps to herself. But I went over there one day, and I'm knocking on the door because a piece of mail came to my house, and I was going to give it to her. I thought it was hers, and it was like I was bothering her. And I felt like, geez, I'm just trying to get to know you. I'm just trying to,
Mhm.
give you your mail.
Well, we know what's contributed to that. It's a combination of things: social media, the internet, these apps. We no longer socializing no more. It's
And,
almost
and
like a foreign art now, where we don't even acknowledge each other in passing anymore. It's like then you just see them. What is it gonna hurt you for you to acknowledge them?
well, what we have to do is we have to do things like the Taste Attorney, where we
Ah,
have a street festival where people come out and they come out to see the band. They come out to go to the food truck event. They come out and do those things, and they interact with one another. And then guys like me and guys like Avery Johnson and Cliff Kelly and Stacy Collier, people like that are your community leaders, have to go, hey, I want you to meet so and so over here. This is your neighbor, and you might get some people that don't want to meet anybody. You're going to get some of those. But I think it's going back to the basics. I mean, I learned because an elderly person told me, hey, you know this guy over here, he could fix your bike. He could fix your car. He can, you know, he needs somebody to cut his grass, and you're young enough, you can do that.
mhm,
It's those type of things that I hate to say we need to get back to the basics, and I do a lot of research about social media. I do a lot of research of, I love these podcasts. I mean, I checked out your podcast when you sent me the link the one day, and I got to tell you what you were talking about. I think in that podcast you had somebody on that was talking about, I think, domestic violence or something like that, and it was a young person, and I tuned in and listened to that, knowing that my mom was abused by my dad. So those things interest me, and I think as a mayor you have to have that. You have to have a handle on that. You got to be open to doing this research.
mhm.
And social
Well, I
media.
thought that was why I was like, I gotta get him on the show. You up for re-election? I think that this is an important conversation what we having right now. Even if we don't cover everything, at least we started the conversation, and that's truly what I created this platform for, was to create an environment so people can speak and stand and walk and live in their truth. It is liberating. It lifts a lot of pressure when you can just say, hey, this is who I am, this is what I'm going through or dealing with, this is what I'm in the midst of, and it's okay. Because it's okay. There is a lot of things that's going to happen in life where you're going to have to learn how to not take everything so personal. You're gonna have to be open, like you said, into other people's perspectives, other people's opinions. That's important to me. I'm more worried about impact than I'm worried about likes or uh, substantial money gain from doing this. Like, that was never a thought in my mind when I started this. It literally was like me just having a way to journal without actually writing. I just started like getting in front of the camera and telling my stories, and that kind of helped me connect with my kids' generation. That's why it's a lot of young people that be on my show, because I realized, oh man, I can really connect and bridge the gap, because there's a gap. It's a gap between me and my mother's generation. It's a gap between us and our kids' generation. What can I do? These are things that I say to myself, okay, what position or what role can I play to help that? I recognize it. That's the first step, is recognizing that it exists, so I can come up with a blueprint or a plan and then execute. That's how you solve or deal with anything in life. That's what I created this for.
Yeah,
A place of peace.
and I got to give you credit because, like I said, when I watched your podcast, I was intrigued because I just got done reading a book called The Anxious Generation, right?
Mm,
And it's about the Generation Z generation. And I've done a lot of research on the generational differences. um, the greatest generation was the silent generation, and they didn't do it. They stayed home, and they had the baby boomers, right? And the
mm,
baby boomers, biggest generation at the time, 72 million people, and they changed the world. But they also said it's either my way or no way at all. I mean, I think we're dealing with that right now in national politics. Is you got a baby boomer as a president who says, I want to make America great again, which is what it was when he was young, right? But he doesn't see that there are 96 million millennials running around that do things differently, that saw the world differently, they grew up differently. And I think when I go out and talk to people about the generational differences, I tell them, especially if I'm talking to a baby boomer, I tell them, do you know what it was like growing up as a millennial? Think about it. What's the worst thing you ever seen happen on national TV? And many of them would say it was the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. For my generation, the Gen Xers, we saw a space shuttle blow up out of the sky, and that was traumatic for us. But our millennial generation, our Gen Z generation, and the Gen Alphas that are coming up now, what do they see? It's almost every week there's a school shooting, there's an active shooter somewhere, there's something, going on of that nature. And it's no wonder that some of them have the mentality or the thought process of, I'm going to live for today because I don't
mm,
know that I'm going to be around tomorrow.
mm,
And it's because of those things that they've the trauma that they've dealt with. And it doesn't even have to be the active shooter, right? I was at the high school when they were searching for when the school board was looking for to hire a school superintendent before Dr. Reynolds. There was a group there was a guy that was going to do just an opinion of what the students wanted to see in their superintendent. And
mm,
I had met him the day before. I asked, do you mind if I go in with you? I just I want to meet the children, right? And he says, I don't have a problem with it. Come on in. I go, I want to see what they're looking for because maybe I can help, right? When we're in the school and all of a sudden over the loudspeaker, they announced a lockdown.
mm,
I looked around me, and all these kids are gone. And I said, "Where are you guys all at?" Well, they're hiding behind curtains. They're hiding in the closets. They're underneath the desks. I said, "What are you guys doing?" They said, "It's a lockdown. You got to hide." And I said, from what? And they said, lockdown means there's an active shooter in the building.
Mm,
Now,
traumatized.
I never had that growing up, but they do.
Traumatized. I believe a lot of our youth are oversensitized, desensitized, overstimulated, have a lot more access to the internet and websites and social media than they should. There is absolutely a disconnect between the learning and
Right.
allowing these devices to do more of the teaching than we doing as the parents. I know that because I raised three kids by myself and I've seen the difference between when they was growing up and now. And it's like, okay, wait a minute. I see where stuff went wrong back then versus what's currently happening now. But I gotta tell you, like my generation in particular, and a lot of my generation may not agree with that, but we dropped the ball. We dropped the
What
ball.
I don't mean to, but you look really young to me, so I don't know what generation are you, Gen X, Gen Z?
Well, my oldest is 24 years old. My
So
my
you're
middle
probably like
child,
me.
my middle child is 22. My youngest is 21. So now all of them is around the same age. So I would consider them the same generation. But I've seen a big major difference in how I was raised versus how I chose to raise them versus how they're choosing to raise their kids. And I believe that it's supposed to get better or perhaps change or be different as the generations grow. You know, it's hard.
There,
You
there's
talk about schools. I don't have any kids in school, but I talk to a lot of people, since we decided to do this episode, and some of them was talking about the middle school closing, and for me to make sure that I talked to you about that. And I was like, what middle school and when is this supposed to be? Because I was just so confused. But again, all of my kids are out of school now, so now I have, it's not as much of a priority to worry about the schools as it was when my kids was in the schools. It made me make sure that I mentioned it tonight, is what's happening with that, because Garfield don't have a lot of schools. We got what, one elementary school or two, and you got one middle school and one high school, correct? So like,
yeah.
is there any truth to that? Is the middle school going to be closing? Are we doing some type of combining with the high school, or what's happening with that? Because I've seen a lot of that in other suburbs like Warrensville, for example, Maple, for example, combining a lot of the grades together in one building.
Well, I can't answer for the schools because they're a separate entity from the city. But
Okay.
I will tell you what they've told me.
Okay.
Um, they've got this school levy. It's a renewal levy that, and this is the last time that they can put it on the ballot. And otherwise, if it fails, then they're going to have to make some drastic changes. And they've told me part of it is their enrollment is down. So they may be combining the middle school and the high school together at the high school instead of the middle school. And they may idle that school, in other words, not have anything happen there. They're talking about having to shut down Elmwood Elementary School. Again, because their numbers are down. And if you look at what's going on, we, parents have an opportunity that we never had when we were, I don't want to say we never had, but it was not as affordable when we were raising our kids. And that was to be able to send our children to charter schools, to parochial schools. Now the funding follows the kid, right? So what happens is if their enrollment is down, they don't need to have all these schools going on. So what happens is they're telling me that if the levy doesn't pass, they're going to have to probably let the kids out early. They're going to, these are all drastic measures.
Mm.
I'm I'm a proponent of pass this levy because it's a renewal, and a renewal means you're already paying that money. That there's no new tax.
Oh,
It's
so
a
so
renewal,
you believe that's what the residents are under the assumption of, that
right?
this is about to cost them some more money on top of what they already paying as far
Right.
as taxes.
It's not. But here's the thing. Our school board needs to get out and talk about the facts. They're afraid to talk because the state of Ohio had told them in the past you cannot talk about the levy because it's against,
Mm,
uh here's the thing. They can talk about facts. They can't come out and say vote for the levy. They can't
mm,
come out and say, don't vote for the levy. They can just give you the facts and then you make your own decision. And one of the things they have to tell people is the the bond issue that was on for 30 years or 20 years to build the high school, that's done. This is the last year. So you're not paying for that next year. You won't actually see that savings till 2027 because everything's a year behind. So they need to communicate to residents that we need you to pass the renewal levy because if you don't pass that and then we can't put it back out on the ballot, we're going to have to put a new operating levy on, which is going to raise your taxes. So pay the renewal. It's not raising your taxes. Pass that one. And then this other one's coming off, which is going to save you X amount. And I don't know what that is. Their treasurer needs to come out and tell people that. But if they tell people that, people I think are going to be more perceptive and more in agreement with passing the renewal levy. So they don't want to see their taxes go up.
Cause I'm so glad that you broke that down. Cause I was like, I'm so confused. I don't understand what is the problem, But I have a better understanding now that you've broken that down. Um, you guys got a new state of the art justice center facility that is due to unveil in 2029. Can you tell us something about that? Because that's something I've been hearing for a few years.
You're talking about the Cuyahoga County Central Services campus.
Mm-hmm.
Um, is going to house the sheriff's department, the
Okay.
county jail.
Okay.
And at first, when Chris Ronayne came to me and said, Mayor, we want to put the county jail in your town, I was a little taken back by it. I'm like, okay, we need to sit down and talk because all I hear about this county jail downtown is nothing but problems, people dying in it and things like that. And it took him probably 2 months of meetings with me to really convince me and show me what they really wanted to do. It wasn't about just a jail. The media was making it about just a jail, you know?
Well, I've watched the video. I've watched the video where they show the blueprint. They show you what it's going to look like, what it's going to include,
Right.
how many floors, who is going to be able to help, what kind of resources is going to contain. Like, I'm one of those people, I never have conversations with people unless I do my homework first.
Well,
Like,
if you saw what they just, because it's out on the news now. I mean, they just had I went to the meeting the other day of Cuyahoga County Council, and it's not just they're not just looking at a jail facility to house criminals that are going to trial, right? They're not going to be there. It's not a maximum security state prison. It's a jail. But part of what they want to put in there is a mental health facility.
mm-hmm,
Part of what they want to put in there is to deal with people that really shouldn't be incarcerated in a jail because maybe they're addicted to drugs and they need the treatment to get them clean.
mm-hmm.
They also want to put in there a workforce development program where they're teaching people a trade so that it lessens the possibility of of them
Yeah,
coming back in
yeah, for
recidivist,
them
right?
reoffending. Mm-hmm.
And so I got to meet a guy named Brandon Christowski, and this is really, he's probably the guy that probably convinced me the most. He was a convicted felon. He learned how to be a chef when he was incarcerated. Then he got out and he opened his restaurant, Edwin's in Shaker Heights.
Oh, I know
Then he
exactly who you're talking about. He's
then
had
he
a felony program for
right.
years.
He has a program where he trains people. And that is the model that Cuyahoga County wants to use for workforce development. Now I'm taking
Mhm.
that to another level. I've been in talks already with a local company here called the Driven Four Group to they cover every facet of what you need if you're going to build a house or a commercial building. They do the drywall, they do the flooring, they do the concrete work, they do roofing, siding, painting, all that stuff. And I talked to them about if we can partner you with Cuyahoga County, the Cleveland Building Trades, to train young individuals. We go to the high schools. There's an equally a segment of the population that is 18 to 26. They're out of high school. They don't know what they're going to do. They don't know if they're going to go to college, and currently they're doing nothing. But if you can attract them to come to some sort of a free training where we can help them become a painter or a cider or an electrician or floor covering installer, they can earn a substantial amount of money and make a decent living. And we actually had this happen. We had two individuals when we tore down that skate park to put our basketball courts in. We found two young individuals that were sleeping underneath our skate park ramps. They
Wow.
were homeless. We didn't even know, right?
Wow.
And I got to tell you, I have some great people working for me. Lakita, that is in our senior
That-
center, was
That's
talking to me
that's one
about.
of my family members too. When I tell you like embedded in this city, I'm serious. Yeah.
I love Lakita. She talked to them. Again, you engage them, right? Well, I said, can you have them come up and talk with the mayor? I would love to talk to the two individuals. They came up, and I had already done my homework. I called a guy that I know, Larry Lane, who has Miss O's restaurant here in Garfield Heights, who also tries to help the youth. I had talked to him and I said, Larry, I got this. I got two individuals. I didn't even know they were sleeping. I feel like they took away their home. And he said, Burke, that's what he calls me. He says, I have a friend. If they're willing to learn a trade, I have a friend who'll put them up in his house. Let them live in one of his houses, and all they got to do is work on the house, and he'll teach them how to be a painter, a cider. I'm like, what a concept, right? So I asked Lakita, can you get these two kids up to my office? And I talked to them. And if you ever go into my office, you'll see I have some guitars on the wall. I'm a musician, and um, I listened to their story. I said, "What do you guys want to do when you grow up? What is your lifelong aspiration?" And they said they want to make movies. They've already been making movies on TikTok, and you know, they said, but when we become famous, we want everybody to know that we were homeless.
Mm.
I said, that is interesting. I said, you know what? I go, you see these guitars on my wall? And they said, yeah. I go, I'm a musician. I'm an artist like you. You're an artist. You want to make movies. You know, I'm a musician. And I've been a musician since I was 20 years old or so. I played the clarinet and now I play guitar and I sing. And I've been to Nashville. I've been in front of record executives and I've opened up for some really big people in the country music setting,
Ooh,
and I
impressive.
so I've had that, I've had that experience, and I told them, I said, you know what, you guys are going to make movies, no doubt, in my mind, because I can hear your passion, I can see the passion you have. I said, but can I ask you a question? Would you be open to learning a trade? Because I was in the floor covering business for 35 years, and I'll tell you, if you learn how to put in flooring, you could work 4 days a week and make $100,000 a year a piece, each one of you. And now I had their attention. I said, you know what you do with the other? You're working 4 days a week. You know what you do with the other 3 days a week? You go make your movie.
Hmm.
And you know what? Nobody could ever take away the fact that you're homeless. You already achieved that goal. Just check that one off your list and go learn a trade. And I have just a guy that'll help you. And I gave him Larry's number. They walked from the Civic Center to Garfield Commons and met with Larry. Larry has them they're learning a trade. They just released a short film, but they're learning a trade. It's a
That's
success story.
crazy.
And these are the things that we have to do.
Yeah.
These are
I,
the type
I,
of things
I,
we have to do.
I love that. Well, I feel like this was an amazing conversation. Um, I can't wait to, see where just this conversation opens the doors up for other conversations. I absolutely have to talk to your sister again. We had an amazing conversation earlier. Very bright woman. I like what she's doing as far as the domestic violence and her organization that she has going on. Um, Election. What do we need to prepare for? What day? Where's the location of this new Cuyahoga County Service Center?
It's going to be on. It's really not in a residential neighborhood. It's where the Granger Road Hill goes down into Valley View. It's in
Mm-hmm.
between that road and I-480. It was vacant land for all these years, and
Oh, I thought that was a land, like it was something going on with that land, and that's why everything could sort of vacated from over there.
right. Now that land has never been a landfill. That is clean land. That is the reason why Cuyahoga County fell in love with it, because it is not toxic. You know, when you think about you're going to build a building to incarcerate people, those people are in and out within. I think the average stay is like 30 days. They told me. But what about the people that work there for 30 years? They don't want them to be exposed to toxins
So we
and things like that.
talking before the old Walmart, Applebee's, the Giant
Right.
Eagle. Okay, okay.
Okay, where the Walmart, where Applebee's is at, Walmart, where that Giant Eagle, that used to be landfill.
Mm-hmm.
And if you actually go over there and you see behind Getco, there's this huge mountain, this huge hill. That's where all the municipal waste is. You can't dig into that. They moved it all from where they built there to that location. But where Cuyahoga County is building their campus, that has never been a landfill. That is 100% clean land. It used to be a housing development in there. And Mayor Longo, when he negotiated that, he took all the houses out of there. And a lot of those people had to move. But that land is clean, and that's the reason why they fell in love with it, because they don't have to spend millions and millions and millions of dollars to clean that. It's already clean. And
Okay.
it was really the safety of the people that have to stay there and also work there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was the reason why they fell in love with Garfield Heights there. But it's good for us, and we're going to see revenue from it. And everything that they have told me has convinced me. They've gone down to Nashville to see their facility, Franklin County. They've gone out to San Francisco to see the new facilities. It's not these prisons and these jails that they're building today are not what they used to be. They're cleaner. They're friendlier to people that are, I see some of the comments out there where people say, "Oh, great, we're building them a hotel." Well, some of these individuals don't belong in a maximum security prison. Some of them either got in trouble just their first time, or they have either a mental health condition or they have a drug issue that they need treatment for. And if you can treat that, I think you'll have a much better success rate of recidivism. Um, and I think that they literally have it down to a science. In my opinion, after hearing what they've said, I've bought into it that it's going to be safe. Plus, you're going to have 90 some more law enforcement officers running around the city of Garfield Heights, which I
Yeah.
don't think anybody can argue with. That should make it safer, you know. As far as the election, I, we had a primary, and I know I did well in the primary. I think that we'll see a bigger turnout in the November 4th election. I will I will say this. I mean, I think I just put everything to God. I give it to God, right? And if God wants me to continue the work that I've been doing, we've seen a lot of success over the last 4.5 years. I think that if God wants to see that, He's going to make that. If I don't win the election, it's because God has a different plan for me.
Mhm.
But I really enjoy what I do for the residents of the city. I tell a lot of my friends that I used to be in the floor covering business with is, yes, this might be harder at times. It is definitely more stressful at times, but the reward is unlike no other. When you can help somebody and give them a better quality of life, that is something that I'll always remember. That is something that I'll always enjoy doing. And I really feel like, these last 4.5 years, we've accomplished so much, but we still have a lot more to do. And the engagement thing is big. We've done a whole summer of engaging with people. And I got to tell you, being in all the different neighborhoods, we're definitely going to continue that. We're definitely going to continue that. In fact, Saturday, I am going to be at the new pond tomorrow. Today's Friday. So tomorrow I'll be at the new pond. I will have my guitar. We're going to talk about some city things. I mean, I think most people that have come now have already engaged with me, but we're going to do some campfire songs and we're going to have a good time. And I just want people to know that they got a guy at the helm that is interested in bringing people together. And that is the number one thing we need to do to move the city forward is we need to engage our neighbors and we need to have them
I,
understand one another.
I agree 1,000%. Okay, so last question. Street improvement. What in the world is we gonna do about these streets? Help me, Mayor. Now, woo! I didn't had to replace so many tires this summer. Oh my goodness.
It takes money. We have done a lot of streets since I took over. I took over a city that they didn't do very many streets at all. First thing we did was reassess the streets. We had our engineers look at them, find out what the worst streets were. Um, but the concept was let's take our money and leverage it with Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District, Cleveland Water, the county. If the water department wants to replace a water line or the sewer lines, the sewer department, then what we need to do is we need to focus on those streets. If there's lead lines that need to be replaced, we wanted to focus on those streets because we don't want to put and we don't want to resurface the street and then find out Cleveland Water wants to come in and tear that street up and put a new water line in. Let's just make sure that gets done first and then we'll resurface the streets. And once we started doing that, I remember 3 years ago we got a few more streets done that we didn't have before. Then last year we started to see more, and then all of a sudden the county said, "Hey, we like the way you're doing things. Let's tear up McCracken. let's tear up, Rockside. Let's and so we went literally for 14 years where we didn't do a lot of streets where everybody was complaining about, can you do my street? To now I get a lot of people say, can you fix the ones that you already tore up before we start tearing up another one? But I will say this, we're open. Like, we have on our website, well, one of the things I'm most proud of is this website that we put together, because there was no website when I took over. It was just not effective. We have this thing called report a concern. If there is anything that you want people to tell, or want us to know, put it on the report of concern. Call the service department. Tell us how bad your street is. I hear it a lot, and when we at least we can look into that street and say, okay, here's the reason why it wasn't done, because Cleveland Water is planning next year to put a new water line in there. So we don't want to do it now. We'll wait till it is done next year. If we know that information, we'll let residents know that, so that they know, okay, it's coming. I understand they don't want to pave it and then have it tore up again. It's like a waste of money, So we're leveraging our money that way. And with the county campus coming, as soon as people start working over at that facility, start building it, we're going to see revenue. We're going to see income tax revenue coming into the city. That is going to help fix streets. We tried to put traffic cameras on I 480, which is dangerous. There's people flying up and down I 480 doing 90 miles an hour. If traffic cameras could have ticketed them, if there's and we put right on the ballot language, any revenue that's generated from that would go to everything that the city pays for, which the majority of them would have been fixing the streets and eliminating your rubbish tax. If you eliminate the rubbish tax, there's $180 worth of savings between that and the frontage fees that you would have had every year. Now I know our property taxes went up, but you would have been able to save $180 every year just on those other taxes. And but we can't tell you go vote for the traffic cameras and we'll eliminate this. We tried to spell it out as much as we could on the ballot language. Unfortunately, the residents did not pass that. And a lot of them were out there talking about, oh, it's just a money grab. It's a money grab. It's really to make it safer on I 480. But any revenue that's generated could have been used to handle that. And if that's the case, there's some people asking me about putting it back on the ballot. I think that after we did it twice, I think the residents spoke, and I think now if they want it, they should circulate the petition and do it on their own. And but I'm not open to it. I'm not against it. I'm just saying I don't know that I want to put that back out there. I think I've heard the people speak twice now, and I don't want to. I don't think the third time's going to be the charm. If you add, if you know what I
Okay.
mean.
Yeah, I respect that. Well, I really appreciate you for coming through, letting me pick your brain a little bit, have a genuine, healthy dialogue about the city. This is important for both of us on both ends. It's important that you get your flowers while you can still smell them, but also give the people a chance to see who you are outside of maybe the things they've been told or even the experiences they've had themselves with you on a personal level. I've had nothing but positive vibrations from you from the moment that we met. And I just want to thank you again for, letting me interview you because I'm learning. I feel like this is gonna be a step stool to you helping and introducing and connecting me to other people that can help me elevate on the journalism side because that's my goal at the end of the day is to one day have a talk show that allows ordinary people, celebrities, famous people, whatever, to come sit down and have transparent, sometimes hard and vulnerable conversations about the stuff that affect all of us, regardless to who you are and where you come from. So I just want to tell you I appreciate you, Mary Bird. Thank you for coming through and hanging out with me.
Hey, thank you for having me. Anything I could do to help, you let me know. We can, I think it's all about networking. My whole career in floor covering and my whole life, I've networked with a lot of people, and I think that's helped to get me where I am today. It definitely never hurts to know people, and any way I can do, I can help you with. Just let me know. We'll connect you with whoever we can connect you with, right? I mean,
Okay. See,
you
yay.
need to meet Delvis Valentine. He's a great
I
guy.
do. I'm looking forward to that. We
You know,
talked
he
about that before. I can't wait for us to sit down and have a conversation with him as well. Well,
yeah.
you enjoy the rest of your weekend.
You do
Uh,
the same.
I'll see you around for sure.
Already. Thank you.
Until next time, y'all. I'll see y'all Tuesday, okay? 11 a.m. I love y'all.
Take care,
Yeah.
everybody.
So, peace.